Hello students, today we are going to see about few decorative stitches in hand embroidery. Let me list down what are the decorative stitches we are going to see for today's class. Fly stitch, knotting stitches, hemming, fishbone. These are the main stitches what we are going to see today. This knotting stitches, further we have two types. Actually two types is the basic one. We have more types of knotting stitches available. We are seeing only the basic stitches. In that basic, coming to the knotting stitches, we have French knot and Boolean knot. And one more stitch that comes under the category of decorative is bride stitch. This bride stitch, which is purely decorative, which is used for many purposes. Let me list down and say you the application and the demonstration of how we have to do the needle and thread movement for this types of decorative stitches. Coming to the first stitch, fly stitch. As the name implies, the stitch looks like flying in the shape of Y. The end result of the stitch will be looking like fly and also like in the shape of Y. It is under with the two categories, like we have vertical fly stitch and horizontal fly stitch. This fly stitch is purely only for filling stitch. You can fill the motif according to the design you have chosen with this kind of fly stitches. If you plan to do with the birds flying like in your design, you can prefer this kind of fly stitch which suits more abruptly for your design. If you want to give, like as I said, birds flying, you can take single fly stitches which looks like this. If you want to have like flies continuous manner, you can make continuous fly stitch like this. At the end of your application, this stitch looks like this if you want continuous fly stitch. And if you want the fly stitch should be in horizontal manner, you can work out like this also. So what I coming to say is you can take the fly stitch applications according to what you want or according to the design you have chosen. As I was saying already in my previous lessons, like you have to choose needle, thread, fabric combinations accordingly, and also important thing you have to keep in mind is the design what you have selected. According to the design, what kind of stitches you can prefer also plays a vital role in making your stitch or the entire motif to look beautiful. Let me now demonstrate how this fly stitch looks when you do it on your designs. So fit your frame accordingly. I was continuously using Gada material for doing the hand embroidery stitches. It is up to you how you choose the fabric color. According to that, you can choose the thread color accordingly. So for this fly stitch, you can take more than 3 strands or 6 strands. It is up to your wish. Thread your needle. We have threaded down. So for this fly stitch, as I said, you have to make it in a Y shape. See, I am going to take the needle from the bottom of the fabric. As usual, hold your thread at the edge with your left finger and pierce at the point where you have to finish your fly stitch. So as the name implies, the fly stitch looks like flying, right? And also in the shape of Y. So we are not supposed to finish the whole stitch in a tight manner. If you finish in that manner, you won't get in the shape of Y. So you have to make it clear that it should be lagging with length of the stitch so that you can make the Y, and take the Y length or the tail you have to make, which looks like Y. You have to take from the point where you have made the U shape at the initial stage and pierce the point where you have to finish your fly stitch. This is your single ply. If you want to use this single ply in your designs, you can use. It is single one. As I said, if you want to prefer like birds flying in your embroidery designs, you can prefer this kind of flying stitches. Or if you want to use this continuous ply, what you have to do is continuously take from the left and pierce at the point Y or at the second parallel line. Make sure your stitch should not get tightened fully. So as you planned, if you are doing continuous fly stitch, you have to make sure all your 6 strands are equal in length and equally made without any twist. See, the 6 strands are uneven now. If I pierce it without knowing, I will get snagging in my design. So be conscious, all your 6 strands should be in a balanced manner without any popping up of your threads, and pull it out. See, at the back of your designs, you should be conscious like your thread should not get knot. If it gets knots, your stitch at the face side will get into trouble. So make sure when you take lengthier threads, you should be conscious about the stitch or the knots at the back side to prevent damage to your designs. And pierce at the point where you want to finish your ply stitch. I repeat, if you are going to take continuous ply stitches, take at the point left side, finish at the right. So you should be conscious, you should not make all the stitches, all the strands should be in equal manner, and also you are not supposed to make the stitches tight. So be conscious, it look like U, and after getting the shape of U, you are supposed to finish like Y. That is what the entire fly stitch looks like. So you made it. So you have to be conscious and you have to be patient for doing this kind of stitches. Only the interest makes you people do consciously. Take from the previous stitch. See, if you continue like this, you are supposed to get stitches like fly stitch. If you made any mistake, it won't come good manner. So be conscious. You have to finish accordingly and at an even distance so that all the fly stitches which you made continuously comes in a neat manner and unique manner. This is what your fly stitch entirely looks like. And coming to the next stitch, knotting stitches, French knot. French knot, it looks like a dot actually. You have to wrap your threads around the needle twice or thrice to make this French knot. This French knot can be used as a filling stitch. Both this boolean and French knot consumes thread, but it is used to make very simple stitches for your simple motifs. You can find applications of this French knot and boolean knot stitches in flower motifs. One thing you have to be conscious while doing this French and boolean knots is you can take all the 6 strands together. so that the stitches look like embossed effect. So it should have the embossed look than your fabric. If your fabric is in this manner, your stitch should be in this manner. You should have some gap between your stitch and the fabric, which makes the stitch to look like embossed one, which is used for simple flower motifs. Or else you can call it as embossed or dense stitches, dense stitch or dense effect. You can get from this kind of boolean and French knots. I will demonstrate in needle and thread movement now. Before going to demonstrate practically, I will show you with notifications like how you have to do it. For this French knot, you have, as usual, you have to bring at the point A, and at the point B, wrap your threads twice or thrice around your needle. Your needle should be in this manner, and you have to pierce at the point C and pull it your thread towards the bottom of your fabric, which makes the French knot at this point. Only 3 notifications are involved for this French knot. So make it clear while doing your French knots. I will now demonstrate how to do the French knot. So, and also it is advisable to knot your stitch at the end for doing this French knots. You will understand why I am asking you to do this particularly for this knotting stitches. For doing this French knots, you are supposed to wrap your threads around your needle twice or thrice, right? If you are not knotting your stitches at the end of your thread before starting, what makes you to be in trouble is, if you are planning to wrap like this, you will be conscious in wrapping your thread around your needle. You will not be able to hold your end of your stitch with your left finger, which makes the thread to ravel or come out of your hand. For this knotting stitches, it is mandatory to use both your hands to get a proper stitch, and also it will be comfortable to do the stitch when you use both your hands. Fine, that is what it is okay to knot for French knot stitches. So once you bring your needle to the top of your fabric, what you have to do is, this is the point A as I did the demonstration in paper. You have to face your needle very close to your fabric. Wrap your thread once, twice and thrice, and hold your wrapped threads with your right finger and pierce near to the point A and pull your thread towards the bottom of your fabric. We got French knot. This is what called as French knot. This kind of French knot can be used as a filling stitch. Simply you can knot around the motif whatever you have chosen. It looks good effect when seen with plenty of French knot stitches, and also it is advisable to use huge amount of knotting stitches in your designs, which makes very beautiful. If you do it in a random manner, it won't affect much. I repeat how to do this French knot again. So what the important thing you have to keep in mind while doing this French knot is, you should be conscious. You have to choose all the 6 strands for doing this French knot and boolean knot stitches, and you have to knot your thread at the bottom before starting your embroidery. So we got at the point A. We are going to wrap the needle with thread thrice as I did now, So we are going to hold the wrapped threads with your right finger and going to pierce near to the point A, and we are going to pull the thread at the bottom of your fabric. This is what your French knot. Actually, we are not supposed to get projected threads like this. We should be conscious while doing. This was exactly good compared to my next stitch. I repeat how to do this. You have bought the face side. You are going to wrap thrice, hold it in place, pierce it near to A and pull it. See, we got exactly. This is what your French knot stitch is. And coming to the next stitch, Boolean knot. This kind of Boolean knot procedure also falls same like French knot mostly, but a small minute difference is there. It consumes more thread. We need more patience for doing this kind of Boolean knot stitches, more thread. As I said earlier, this kind of French and Boolean knots can be used for flower motifs. And what the thing is, for this Boolean knot also you are supposed to take all the 6 strands, which makes the stitch to look dense and also decorative. For doing this Boolean knot, your needle and thread should be in the position like you have to take the needle at the point A, you have to make a distance or you have to decide the distance B to C, and you are supposed to wrap this B to C length of needle n number of times with the thread you have, and what you have to do is at this stage you are supposed to bring the thread out from the needle and make it clear all the wrapped threads are in regular and uniform position, and you have to make the stitches to be done on the fabric. Once it is done with the needle, you are supposed to bring all the wrapped threads one by one from the needle to place it on the fabric. The final stitch of your Boolean knot will look like this on your fabric. Let me demonstrate with needle and thread. For this Boolean knot also, try to knot at the end before starting your embroidery. So as I said, we brought the needle to the top of your fabric, pierce at the point B or C. The distance you decided is the entire length to which the entire Boolean knot should occupy. For this Boolean knot stitches, you can prefer milliner type of needles which are lengthier in size and the thickness will be in uniform manner, which makes the designer or the embroidery person to feel comfortable to wrap the threads around the needle n number of times for the stitches. If you take very light or thin needle, or if you prefer needles with small needle size, it is not comfortable to do this kind of Boolean knots, which makes you very discomfort for doing this kind of Boolean stitches. So be conscious for this also. Choose the type of needle accordingly for all kind of embroidery stitches which you prefer. But what you can be known with is any kind of stitches can be done with medium size needles. We have app needles for each and every stitches, but you can do all the stitches with medium size needles, even though this Boolean stitches done with me is preferred with medium size needle. But you should be conscious and experienced for doing with this kind of medium size needles. If you are beginners, you can do like, you can take the appropriate milliner needle for doing this Boolean stitches, which will be little length we have uniform thickness, you find space to wrap your threads around your needle so that your stitches will come in a neat manner. Now what you have to do is, for this boolean stitch, you have decided the distance. Now you are going to wrap the needle. For that, what you can do is make the needle not to touch your fabric so that you can wrap the needle in a quick manner. So if you hold it like this with your left finger at the tip or at the edge of your needle, make the needle to rise in its position, which makes it not to touch the fabric. So you can sorry, so that you can hold with your left finger, the fabric is raised, the needle is raised without touching the fabric. Now you can wrap around your needle a number of times. It is not supposed to count the stitches, it is not like that. You can wrap many number of times according to the length of the boolean knot you want. And also, once you have done this, you can hold the stitches also. Like if you hold the wrapped threads continuously after your wrapping, it makes not to get confused. It will not overlap each other, which makes your stitches discomfort. So if you can hold like this also. If you wrap by holding like this, the stitches will not get overlapping. So once your needle is filled with the number of wraps, you can push your needle at the bottom to increase the length. So I have done a number of wraps around the needle without touching the fabric. So all my knots are in equal manner. Number of stitches are not overlapping each other. So what the next stage you have to do is, you have to make all these wrapped threads to come out of the needle first. So pull your bottom of your needle so that your needle goes at the top. See, do it as what I am doing now. Bring your needle. So we have done n number of wraps around the needles, right? So it is very tedious, or you feel discomfort like the stitches are not coming out of your needle. Don't get tense for the situation you face. The idea is, you don't concentrate on overlapping of the stitches right now. You can make all the stitches to come out of the needle first. Like if you do like this, like if you rub your threads, rub your stitches, it will slowly come down from the needle. See, most of my stitches came out of the needle. See, all my stitches now got out of the needle. You have to wrap it like this. If you rub your needle like this, or if you push the stitches down gently or genuinely, you can make all the stitches to come out of the needle. Now all my wrapped threads around the needle came out from the needle. The next stage what I have to do is make all the stitches in even direction, in single direction. Previously I was conscious about bringing the threads down from the needle, so I made it uneven, but now in the same manner genuinely make all the wrap threads in one direction, and you can start pulling your needle. See, I bought the boolean stitch now. See, I have made n number of wraps. That n number of wraps made only this length of boolean. So if you are preferring according to the length of the boolean you want, you have to wrap your threads a number of times so that the length of your boolean will be according to as you wish. So I have got the boolean, I made it to be in an even direction. So once you completed your boolean, try to note at the point where you are like to complete it. See, this is one boolean. Fine. So as I said, this is the fabric, this is the boolean, we find space between these two. Why it is? We have taken more number of threads to wrap around the needle, which makes it very dense or embossed effect. See, it is very thick, very dense, very embossed. So we find gap between your fabric and the needle. This is how your boolean thread works. You may feel little discomfort or little tough to do this boolean stitches, but once you get practice, it is the easier one to do, like knotting stitches. I will teach you again, or I will demonstrate again for this boolean knot. So decide the distance. So remind or recall the things what I have done. So you have to raise the needle. It should not touch your fabric. Hold it in place like this and start wrapping your threads around your needle. And also you should be conscious, like all the 6 strands are wrapped in the same manner. It is common to do mistakes, yeah. Like if you are wrapping your threads or the strands in uneven manner, you feel very tough or tedious at the end to make it your one boolean stitch. So I made the number of stitches as much as possible. So the next thing what I have to do is I have to push the needle to come to its top position, and I have to make all the stitches to come down from the needle. So I am pulling all the threads to come out of the needle by rubbing in this circular motion. So I made all the wrapped threads to come out of the needle. Now what I am going to do is to make all the stitches in a even manner. Again I am doing circulation and I am going to pull it back. See, I got one boolean stitch. So here's the point where you like to end this boolean stitch. So this is your one boolean stitch. Clear?